Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Rosie, this is my husband Jeremy.
Hello.
We have just spent a month in Vietnam and we wanted to give our advice and talk about our experience. So if you are heading there, make sure you watch this video first so you can get all the tips and tricks and all of our advice beforehand. Quick overview. Vietnam is incredible. I absolutely loved it. One of my favourite places I've ever been. I felt super safe. I just loved the countryside, loved the people, loved the buildings, loved the food. Just loved the whole experience. What about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. It was first time in Southeast Asia or Asia, really.
Well, we've been to Indonesia, but...
Yeah, but not as a backpacker traveler vibe. And very surprising, but in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. So I want to talk about a couple of different things and then we're going to talk about the 5 different places that we visited. So first up is money. So the money over there is the Vietnamese dong, and the way that we calculated it was 25,000 dong was €1. Now it wasn't exactly that, it was maybe like 24 something like that.
24,000 something.
But the way we figured it out was 25,000 is €1 and it was just slightly off. So if something was 100,000, that means it was €4. So that was kind of our way of breaking things down. Obviously it'll be different depending on your currency and where you're from, but that's kind of what we worked with, and it worked quite well. It was quite easy just to quickly calculate prices. The next thing is...
Well, you do end up with a lot of money. You're a millionaire over there.
Oh yeah, when you take money out it's millions. Next thing is the language. So obviously they speak Vietnamese. We learned a couple of different words when we were there, which was quite good and quite helpful. So I might be saying these wrong, but this is our version of what we learned. Xin chào is hello, come on is thank you, com is rice, ga is chicken, bo is beef, and then pho is noodle soup. So you often get com ga, which is rice and chicken, or pho bo, which is beef noodle soup basically. So that's some essentials for you because those are the 2 main things you're going to be eating in Vietnam. There's obviously also a lot of seafood around the coast. There's a lot of fried foods, things like that, spring rolls we enjoyed, coffee shops. There's a lot of tra, which is tea, and they have tea with like jelly bits in there. If you've seen my previous vlogs and videos, you'll know, but just be careful with tea. It doesn't always just mean tea.
Well, and also I would say that they don't speak a lot of English in most places. Hoi An was probably the place where they spoke the best English.
Yeah.
But even in Hanoi or in Saigon, which were the 2 big cities that don't say that. Like, I guess it depends where you go, but if you do like a backpacker kind of hour traveling style and eat at local restaurants and go to local things, yes, they don't speak too much English, really. It's fine, I mean, it's enough to get along, between Google Translate and hand movement. You can always get what you want. But yeah, it's like you need to find your way out there.
Oftentimes, like Jeremy said, we'd go to like the local restaurants and things. We'd literally sit on the street where there's like a grandma with a big pot of something. We'd just sit down and say, 2 please, and then whatever arrived we would eat it. So we didn't always need the language, but then when we went on tours and things like that, there was obviously someone that spoke English. I'm sure if you stayed in like 5-star hotels, you'd have guides and people speaking English. We'd stay in kind of backpacker places and smaller places where...
But most people at the reception spoke English, for example, at the hotel and stuff like that, so
yeah. Right, so that's the kind of little breakdown of Vietnam as a whole. We're now going to go through every single place that we went to. So we went to 5 different places. We started in Hanoi. We then went to Cat Ba Island in Ha Long Bay, or Lan Ha Bay. It's Lan Ha, but people know Ha Long Bay. We then went to Hoi An. Then we went to Saigon, which is Ho Chi Minh City, and then Can Tho, which is on the Mekong Delta, right in the south of Vietnam. So starting in Hanoi was an experience, because let me tell you, we've not experienced that since, but it was just mayhem. Like, just so many people, so many motorbikes. I think there's like, what was it, like 8 or 9 million people there, and then like 5 million motorbikes or something. Like, it's just madness. Really crazy, really busy, but also stunning. So we were staying in the old town, old quarter. By the way, before we carry on, all of the information in terms of hostels, hotels, everything like that, any churches or visits or anything I'm going to talk about is going to be linked in the description box. I'm going to try and leave all the information, so if I talk about something that catches your eye or you kind of want to try for yourself or go and visit, check out the description box. I'm going to leave as much information in there.
And also disclaimer, we didn't visit Hanoi, we visited the old quarter of Hanoi.
Yeah, it's huge.
Basically, like we saw one neighborhood pretty much.
Yeah.
So what we talk about is specific to this neighborhood, because it's probably different in other places.
Yeah, but I remember walking around and just being like, oh my god, this place is beautiful. Like every single street corner, you're like, is this a film set from like 50 years ago? It's just beautiful. Food was insane. Just loved it, didn't we?
It's mental. Like crossing the road is an adventure by itself.
Yeah.
You have no idea if you're gonna make it the other way, and you always do, but it's not obvious when you start.
So advice.
The first step is not easy.
Advice for crossing the road.
Go.
Hold on to each other.
And go.
Yeah, and just go because, so I would say avoid the cars because they don't stop. The motorbikes don't stop either, but the motorbikes can quite easily swerve around you. So if you just start walking, just try and walk. Like, don't stop, just keep, and don't run either. Just slowly walk across, and then the motorbikes will avoid you, and try and avoid cars.
Don't change pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, traffic light doesn't matter. You don't need to bother to walk on
zebra crossing.
They don't care.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's a pretty cool city. I really liked it.
Yeah, I really liked it.
It's weird. It's probably like the most different city I've ever experienced compared to everything I know. But I loved it at the same time. I love the hustle and bustle of like the old town with just plenty of shops everywhere, people just chopping fish on the sidewalk and chopping pieces of meat and cooking some cakes there. Like everything's just made here and there. Like you basically walk on the road because the sidewalk is always busy of people or motorbike parked and stuff like that. So you just walk on the road. And you just look around what's going on the side, and it's always something going on. Like, people watching there is just like ideal, basically.
So what I want to do is talk about our top 3 experiences or things that we saw in each city. What do you think? The Citadel was one of mine. I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
That was really worth going to.
Yeah, that was cool.
I
enjoyed the bridge, the long bridge.
Yeah.
Very different, but like being out of the noise and seeing is it the Mekong River? No, just the river.
Yeah.
And also like going down in the banana plantations
and
whatever it was, and seeing this fitness stuff outside. That was quite cool.
So the third one I would say is actually the Mausoleum. We did quite a few different things. You'll be able to watch my vlogs. I'll probably leave the playlist or something. The Mausoleum is basically where Ho Chi Minh's body is, and you kind of have to go around the whole building and then a big long queue for like 40 minutes to be able to spend maybe 30 seconds in there. And it's like a square room with the coffin and lights are shining on his face. You can see his body, and there's guards in there. You're not allowed to take photographs or have your phone. You've got to walk quickly, and it was like such a weird experience that you can't just do anywhere. Like, it's not something you can be like, oh, I'm going to do another mausoleum in this place. Like, it's something you kind of, and it's the only place I've ever done it.
Yeah, it's to do it for the experience, just for the how strange is that kind of thing.
Yeah. So that was Hanoi. Is there anything particular we need to say about Hanoi?
Just cool city, to be honest. Try the street food, basically. I would say that's my main thing personally. Is just
pho bo.
Anytime you see a kid chair and a kid table on the floor, that's the restaurant, the terrace. Sit there, point how many you want, and you won't be disappointed, to be totally honest. And try like all the random stuff. Like if you see a woman just mixing dough and things, like, it's good. Try it.
Pho bo was like, I've never had pho bo before, these beef noodle soup. I don't think I've really eaten Vietnamese food before, so I don't really know what to expect. I remember the first couple of mouthfuls, I'd be like, what the heck is going on? How have I lasted 35 years and not had, 34 years and not had this before? So really, really enjoyed that. It was like a huge highlight.
Yeah.
So then we went from there to Cat Ba Island, which is in Lan Ha Bay, which is next to Ha Long Bay, which is the famous one. Bloody loved it there. I think because Hanoi was so busy and so, like, we stayed there for 5 nights and it was a lot of like go, 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 like just loads of people, loads of traffic, loads of noise. When we then got to Cat Ba Island, it was time for us to like relax a little bit, take a couple of days to chill out, and it was also Jeremy flew the drone. And I think it was at that point where, because the last 18 months for us has been pretty shit, if you've seen my videos you know what I'm talking about, But it was the first time where I was like, oh my God, we're traveling, we're here. Like, all our family is safe and well and alive, which wasn't guaranteed in the past 2 years. So, like, the fact that everybody's okay and we're out traveling, I had, like, there was one day in particular, Jeremy flew the drone over the floating village in Halong Bay, Lan Ha Bay, whatever. And I cried like 3 times looking at these videos, just being like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And oh, I'm so lucky to be here. And like, I just felt so overwhelmed and so grateful. And that was a really nice time for us to like chill out a little bit. And especially because the place we were staying, linked below, had puppies. So I don't think there's gonna be puppies there anymore, but they were about 7, 8 weeks old, did you say?
7 or 8 weeks, yeah.
And it was so tiny and so cute. So really, really enjoyed that. We didn't stay in the centre of Cat Ba Island because there's sort of a town centre just built up of hotels.
Cat Ba Town.
Yeah, Cat Ba Town, that was it.
Which, it was interesting, but I would not stay there personally.
Yeah, it was just a lot of hotels and a lot of tourist things and not our jam as such.
Like renting things are so cheap there, like a motorbike or bike or even just get a tuk-tuk or taxi or whatever. It was cool to stay a bit outside and be quiet if that's what you want to see. And just pop in town whenever you want because it's very easy to access basically. And we actually walked there also. It took an hour to walk.
Yeah.
It was actually a nice walk. Not that you would do it every day, but yeah, you can get access to very easy transportation. So
Yeah. Top 3. So the first one would be flying the drone over the floating villages. Do I combine that with the boat trip as well? Because it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, because flying a drone is not an attraction that everyone can
I
do.
know. Flying the drone was insane, but then also the boat trip that we went on, it was $20 each for a full day trip on a boat. So we went through the floating villages. We stopped at different islands and beaches, things like that. We went kayaking through some caves. We had an amazing lunch. We went to see sunset on a different island and saw monkeys on the beach and like... made friends with a couple of people on there as well, but it was such a cool day and so nice to kind of relax and enjoy that part of the world. I know it's a lot of people go there for the overnight boat, which costs about $150 per person. We didn't do that because we kind of decided we didn't really need to. We were quite happy with just a day trip, and to be honest, it was long anyway. Like, I was knackered by the end of it. It was full of kind of like activities, which was really good. I definitely recommend doing it. I'm not sure about the overnight thing. I can't really comment because we didn't do it, but that's kind of what most people do. So that was definitely highlight number 1. Yeah. Highlight number 2 would have been, for me, hiring the motorbike and going off on a little day trip together. We ended up driving to the centre of the island and hiking up the top of the mountain.
That was fun. There's a national park in the middle of the island, basically. And you can go there and you have access to plenty of hikes. And we did a short one, you can do a very long one that takes hours and stuff like that. But yeah, the national park in the middle is pretty sick. It
was a short one, but it was like this. So I was dying. Really amazing views though. Again, the vlogs, I'll leave it linked in the playlist. Really enjoyed that. But what I also loved was driving around the island afterwards, because we kind of drove up through this way to the centre of the island for the hike. And then we drove back the other way, so we're driving along the coastal road at sunset with just these beautiful views of the ocean and the plants and like just like people fishing, and it was just beautiful, wasn't it? Yeah. And then also after that, at the sunset, we went to the local fishing port and saw the big fishing boats and people making fishing nets by hand, and like, yeah, it was just really cool experience. And then what would be the third one?
Well, I would have put the national park by itself.
Yeah.
And then I would say the third one would be just driving around the island with a motorbike. I would separate both of them basically, because I would have never felt safe to hire a motorbike in Hanoi. But over there, it's a tiny island. I don't know how many people are there, but honestly, there's not much traffic on the road. Like, you see a car once in a while and a motorbike once in a while, but it's pretty empty, so it's fairly safe to be on the road and drive around. And it's just a very different way to explore the island and just chill, you know, like just enjoy the island life and the view all around it and stuff like that. It's like nice beaches and it's a really nice island. So I think just roaming around like that, that's something I would highly recommend doing.
Yeah, Really loved it there, really recommend. Again, anything we talked about will be linked in the description box. Then we made our way, we had a 27-hour journey to go from Cat Ba Island to Hanoi, and then Hanoi, a 16-hour overnight train to Hoi An. I always get those two confused, I always say the wrong one. Went to Hoi An. So,
Central Vietnam.
Yeah. Hoi An is a very old town, city, which is famous for all the lanterns. You might have seen pictures of people on Instagram with lanterns all behind them, and a beautiful canal with loads of lantern boats and lights on the boats. And also people have those little cardboard things with a candle on that they put in the water, and then it floats along as like a prayer meditation thing. We had mixed opinions on Hoi An. It was beautiful. The buildings are beautiful. The lights are beautiful. It's a really, really, really beautiful place. But it's also really, really touristy. Like, I think if you visited there maybe 50 years ago or something, when there wasn't that whole tourist scene, stunning. Like, so stunning, so beautiful. It's a bit like Venice in that, like, it's beautiful architecture, but there's just too many people and too many people trying to sell you shit that it's just like, it gets annoying because you're constantly like, come on my boat, come on my boat, come on my restaurant, come on my restaurant, buy this, buy that. And it's just like, you can't just walk through the town and relax. You're constantly bombarded by people, which... So, like, I could see the beauty, whereas you were just like, I'm so over this, I'm so done.
I would never go back there.
And then also, when we were there as well, it rained quite a bit. So I think we had like one good day, but otherwise it was kind of raining a lot of the time. So we'd go out in like an umbrella and a raincoat, and our shoes would be wet. Well, mine would, you've got waterproof shoes, linked below. But no, it was just not... And I think as well, because my little brother has been about 8 or 10 years ago, and he was like, you're gonna love Hoi An, it's so beautiful, and we got there and I was just like,
it's a tourist trap.
I don't know.
Even the whole thing about what could be authentic about the city is this whole lantern light thing, and we asked someone and he told us that it's not even anything historical authentic, it's just, I think some Chinese people were living there, they had lantern, tourists like this, so they just put more of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no historical meaning or whatever, it's just tourists like it, it attracted people, let's just put more out there, and then let's put things on the water that just goes into the ocean. I don't know, I just find it like very touristy. It's a beautiful place. MTA,
yeah,
it's a stunning city by itself, like
the buildings.
Pretty, really cool temples with like 6 statues and fountains of dragon, very colorful, stuff like that. Really cool buildings, but you need to MTA. It's so annoying.
The other thing to eat there is a banh mi. So this is like basically just French bread that they got from the
banh mi is a Vietnamese sandwich, basically.
Yeah, it's a sandwich, but they have French like baguette bread that's crispy on the outside and nice and soft on the inside, and then they put Vietnamese food in there mostly. Like, you had pulled pork, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I had a few. And
there was also ostrich flavour, there was beef and chicken, and
Vietnamese pate.
But there's one place in particular in Hoi An that got famous because of Anthony Bourdain went there and talked about it. So there's one place in particular that costs like 3 times more than the other places. Honestly, a banh mi anywhere is really good.
It costs 3 times, but it's only like €1.50. Still affordable for Westerners.
Yeah.
For local, it's expensive.
What are your top 3 from Hoi An?
Do I have to pick a top 3?
I'll pick a top 3. I really enjoyed the boat trip, even though it was a bit more expensive than we thought. I enjoyed going on that little banana leaf boat. I enjoyed going through the kind of countryside, but I think... Coconut boat, yeah, whatever.
Banana leaf.
Well, you know what I mean. I think in tourist season, in high season, that would be really busy and really annoying, but actually when we were there, it was kind of a rainy day. There was no one else, so that was really nice to do it quite quietly. She made us rings and did that whole spinning thing as well, which was fun. Go on.
My highlight is the day trip that we had outside of Hoi An.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
that was my highlight of Hoi An. It's not being in Hoi An. It's the day trip that we did, going to Marble Mountains near Da Nang, half an hour north of Hoi An, in the morning. That was incredible. One of my most favorite places that we visited so far. And clearly top 3 of Vietnam probably that I've seen. And in the afternoon we went to the Mission Sanctuary, which was south of Hoi An, like an hour away, which is like a really cool complex of temples. And that was a really cool day. That was a really cool tour that we had.
So we did a day trip, and So Marble Mountains is a set of 5 mountains that are like 70 or 80% marble, but there's loads of big relics and statues, and there's loads of different religious things. So like in one of the caves, you walk through all the caves and you can climb up the top. In one of the caves, there was a Chinese statue thing, like monument thing. There was also a Hindu thing and a Buddhist thing, or like a couple of different Buddhist things. So it's a place where there's loads of different history, loads of different religions have been there. It was also part of the Vietnamese War, where at one point they captured some Americans in there, so the Americans got all their armies and bombed the shit out of it and like broke the top of it. So when he was showing us around, he was like, that used to be closed and protected all of these things. Now it's obviously not, and you could see bullet holes as well. So it was like, I think that was our first time seeing anything to do with the Vietnamese War. And then like Jeremy said, in the afternoon we went to Misen Sanctuary, which is a set of temples that people used to make a pilgrimage to go to. They'd take a couple of days to get there, stay for an hour or two, and then a couple of days walk back. And they had like usually 3 buildings in a row. One of them was a meditation place, the next one was a temple or something, and the third one is where if you'd managed to speak to God in the first 2, you could then go to the next one and actually be in the temple, which not many people would do. It got destroyed by the Vietnamese War. They completely annihilated it. So it was interesting to see some like before and after pictures, because they're trying to rebuild it. There was loads of history there in terms of that, and again you could see bullet holes, and like just the woman was really good as well, talking about, you know, this was a religious site for thousands of years, and then now it just got destroyed by the Americans, and it was weird to see the impacts of the war that are still lasting today, even 50 years later, or however long it's been. So
I mean, it's also a really cool temple. Like just like there's still things to see. It's not just ruins, and it's a nice temple. And like, if you don't go to Cambodia to see Angkor and stuff like that, for example, that's like a good, unique temple that you don't see in town. It's in the middle of the forest, like in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty cool things to see.
And then a third thing would either be the temples, like you said. Oh, the Japanese bridge was cool. Or also when I ate chili.
I'll put that there.
I tried one of the local foods. I don't remember what it was called. Cau Lau or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cau Lau. And I just happened to eat a chili. I almost died, but it was so funny. Yeah. So Hoi An, enjoyed it. Not my top place. I mean, I think if you're if you're going through Vietnam, yeah, of course, stop there for a day or 2. But we were there for 5 nights. Yeah. And it kind of felt like too long. To be honest, I think because of the weather, because of the tourist trap thing, and because there's just not, I don't know. Anyway, we then got a 16-hour again overnight train to Saigon, which is Ho Chi Minh City. Again, we spent 5 nights there, I think. And I had a weird experience there, because we basically arrived on whatever day it was. We had a walk around, went to the market, and then went to the cinema in the evening. So we kind of saw like, you know, a couple of roads, and then went to the cinema, and I was also getting work done. And then the next day, we went to the market to get some lunch, where I got food poisoning. We then went to the War Remnants Museum in the afternoon, which meant the next day I was in bed all day sick. So in that like first 3 or 4 days, I'd seen like the market twice, I'd seen the War Remnants Museum in like 2 streets, and then I was in bed all day. So I didn't feel like I knew Saigon at all, because like the other places were like, you know, out exploring, and you get a feel for the city, and you kind of think, okay, well, I know what the city's all about. Whereas Saigon, I didn't really get it for a while. And then the 4th day, whatever it was, we then went on a big day trip and went to see lots of different temples outside of the city centre, didn't we? We did that big day trip on Boxing Day. He doesn't remember already, yeah. Go and watch the vlogs. we went to...
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. It was 1,000... Yeah, okay.
So we did a day trip seeing lots of different temples outside of the city centre, and then I'm pretty sure after that we left or something. So I don't feel like I got to know the city centre, which is a weird one for me. It did feel quite... again, it might be different depending on where you stay, but it felt quite new and quite young.
I liked it.
Yeah, you liked it there.
We stayed in District 1. And yeah, it's very modern, very different from Hanoi. Very modern buildings, like skyscrapers, kind of like open, large streets with nice like pedestrians area and stuff like that.
It kind of just could be any big city, right?
Yeah. But yeah, also going to District 5 and Chinatown to see all those temples and stuff like that was a very different vibe, much more local. But I did like it. I really like Saigon, to be honest. Just like the vibe of the city. Like, cool energy and stuff like that.
It was interesting because there was a park that we went to in the evenings. We'd get like a banh mi and go and sit in the park and eat it there. And there'd be like groups of TikTok dancers, so which was really cool. There was also a street basically for tourists and backpackers. And Jeremy'd read online when he was looking at hotels, like, this street can get quite noisy.
Oh boy.
Let me tell you, we walked down there Christmas Eve, absolutely rammed.
Couldn't talk to each other like that.
It was so loud and so busy, and it was just awful. But it was like there's bars either side with girls wearing like short skirts and crop tops and things, like not even good dancers though, just like moving their bodies but not even particularly dancing. And then like loads of seating outside, and as you're walking through there's people like putting a menu like here in your face and like trying to, like they were pulling you, weren't they, into the bars. They didn't touch me, but trying to pull you into the bars.
Blasting music,
like the music was
as loud as they could in front of each other. It's like
like you would never, like even just walking through for 10 minutes, you would never sit there and have a drink. Like you can't talk, you can't enjoy the music because it's so loud, it's deafening.
Man, it was so funny.
We are so old because I would have loved that when I was 25, but now I'm 35, not so much.
Yeah, it was funny.
So yeah, it was an interesting city. Like Jeremy said, lots of like new buildings, glass buildings. There was also the old market there. There was kind of a mix of, I sort of read online actually before we got there that it's a real mix of everything. You can have like super luxury, but you can also have like backpacker, you can have tourist streets, but you can also have the local market, you can have high end, you can also have not so high end. It's kind of a
again,
clash.
it's huge. It's like 8 or 9 million people again, so
yeah,
it's massive.
But I feel like this city we found a real clash of kind of old temples next to modern schools or supermarkets or whatever, like shopping malls and stuff. So it was a real mix and a real blend. Top one for sure would be 10,000 Buddha temple.
Yeah.
It's a temple where there's literally 10,000 Buddhas. And I'd seen about it online and I kind of thought, okay, that sounds cool. But then it's on the 4th floor. From the street it looks like nothing. You would just walk past it, you wouldn't even go.
It's good that we know it was.
Yeah. And I'd read online as well, you have to go behind the statue in the front to get upstairs, which I don't think we would have done anyway. Yeah. And you walk up the top, and on the 4th floor you walk through and there's 10,000 Buddhas about this big, covering the walls. There's huge statues as well, and it's just incredible. Like you got goosebumps when you walked in. I nearly cried. I sat and meditated for about 10 minutes, which I haven't done in months. Like my brain's constantly go with like travel stuff, but also YouTube and work stuff and like everything else that I'm doing. And it was the first time I was like, oh my God, I feel calm. Like I can sit for 10 minutes and not have to think about anything else. And it was it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Probably one of the highlights of Vietnam in total, like in general. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't think there's many places like that. Like very unique. Like you see so many Buddhas everywhere, but this room, this specific 4th floor room, is just hard to describe. Like the view of it. Like when you come out, it's like, whoa.
And it was also, I think, because there was people. I mean, in other temples, there's people praying, but there's also a lot of people taking photographs and a lot of tourists and that kind of thing. But this was literally a couple of locals coming to pray and meditate or whatever, whatever they're doing.
Yeah, it was just like 5 people at a time.
Yeah, and so it was actually really, really calming. And it was nice and cool in there as well, which you could escape from the heat. And it was just so overwhelmingly beautiful. You could just sit and just be like, oh my God, what the F is going on? How is this real? Like, who created this? And
very
what
unique.
is...
like, not so in a bad way, like, there's so many temples at some point, you feel like they all look the same eventually.
Yeah, a lot of them look similar.
Like it's very similar. When this one is like nothing else in. Like so unique and very special.
But I think especially because, like we said, it's quite hidden. You wouldn't know it from the outside and it wasn't for the tourists. So I'm kind of scared to talk about it because I don't want to ruin this amazing place and like fill it with tourists. But it is honestly worth going to.
Yeah.
So that for sure is my number one. Yeah, what else? You know it better than I do. Jeremy used to go out...
The museum, I think, is a must-see.
Yeah,
like, it's not like a very joyful experience, but I think it's a must-see if you go to Saigon, because that's how you're going to learn about the history of the country and the history of the war. It's not joyful, but I think it's a must-see. Like, clearly, you should go there because... As Westerners, we often hear one side of the story, and hearing the other side of the story is always interesting, and just seeing, and it's very well documented, very well presented, with a lot of photographs and visuals. Everything was translated, and I think it's a must-see. I think that's, yeah.
He's talking about the War Remnants Museum, and it's basically a museum where outside they've got artillery, I can never say that word, like
tanks
and planes and things like that they used during the Vietnamese War, obviously with the Americans. And then inside there's loads of photographs from all the photojournalists that were there, so photographs of, you know, prisoners, of the Americans hiding in the trenches, of you know, the guns, or like just loads of photographs about like the experience of the war. And then there's a section on Agent Orange, which is a chemical that the Americans used to basically strip. So the Vietnamese were hiding in the trees in Vietnam. The Americans found it hard to find them, so they used this Agent Orange all over the country, particularly in the south, I think it was, right?
Yeah, the one was most in.
Yeah.
Most in the south.
And it basically strips all the leaves off the trees, but it also had really, really devastating effects on the people that lived there, and even until today there's still effects going on, because the people that lived through that time, their children and their children's children are also being affected with really severe disabilities, really. You know, there's one woman who had like 8 or 9 miscarriages, and then when she did have a baby who was born alive, they really struggled with, you know, disabilities.
Birth defects.
Yeah.
The photographs are very, very hard. Some of them are very hard to look at, to be honest. Like some physical defects, disorder, I don't know how you call it, like very hard to watch, to be honest. Like hard to imagine that it's real in a way.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, like that the body can be affected that much to do those stuff, you know, on the body, like quite.
It was really shocking.
Mad, yeah.
It was really sad. It made me cry, and like at one point I was like, I can't do this. I need to leave. Yeah. But I stayed, and I thought it is important to stay, and it is important to see these images and to learn about the history, because, you know, it could very easily repeat itself. And I think it's important to know the history and to know what happened, and like James said, to get both sides of the story, because oftentimes you hear the American side of the story. But it was actually interesting to see it from the Vietnamese point of view, and like how many people died, how many people were affected, how many landmines are still there, how many bombs are still there, how many areas you can't go into because it's still, you know, there's still things that could kill you now. So it was really, really interesting. Definitely a highlight, but in the weird, you know, not in like a, oh my god, that was so much fun, just in like a, oh my god, I learned so much, and it was so incredible that they have all this information put together, and definitely worth visiting.
Also very affordable, by the way. It's like €2, not even.
Yeah.
Like very affordable also.
Yeah.
So,
and then, do we have a third?
I mean, I always go back to that. I just like to walk around the city.
Yeah.
Like you have a nice walk in front of like the town hall or something like that, with a statue of Ho Chi Minh City, of Ho Chi Minh, with a big pedestrian, not square, but like very long alley that goes to the river, and you have a nice walk there, like along the river, with like cool bridge and stuff like that to see. Like the market where you got food poisoning, like it's quite vibrant, interesting. There's a big food section in the middle where, apart from that, like we went another time before, and the food was really cool and really nice.
The market was interesting, because they sold different things to a lot of the other markets. They sold a lot of teas, which I hadn't seen in the other ones, like flower teas and things. But again, there was the tour, you know, like the fake Louis Vuitton bags, the clothes and the chopsticks and bowls and all the rest of it. But there was some different things in there that we haven't seen before, so I did enjoy that one.
But also, like, the day you were not feeling well, I just got lost in some more like local streets and plenty of like, again, like street food and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a very interesting vibe, very lively at night. This crazy street obviously is mad, but the rest is like nicely alive, with people dancing in the street, people just walking around, stuff like that. I really liked it. When you talk about the market in Hanoi, go to a market in the old district up north. That was probably a good thing. Like this mental market that is more like a wholesaler market.
Oh, the fabric one?
Yeah, like that was mental. I highly recommend this one in Hanoi. We forgot about it.
Okay. Yeah, so this market is like a huge wholesale fabric market. I'll put some clips on screen so you can see, but there was just so many people, so much hustle and bustle, and people like opening packages, closing packages, doing big shipping packages. There's like shoes and dresses and just
like
craziness.
Most markets in Vietnam sell the same crap everywhere, but this one was very different. It was cool.
Yeah. And also the food market next door had like turtles and fish, and I don't know what else it had.
Yeah, a lot of crazy things.
Oh, it had those it had just bowls of shrimp things, didn't it? Do you remember? Just huge piles of orange.
Yeah, those places. Yeah.
Prawns and anyway. So that was Ho Chi Minh City, also known as Saigon. Like I said, I don't feel like I got a fair shot at it. I would probably like to go back. Like I said, because I was ill, like Jeremy had some street food that I missed out, and he had to bar me that time from like the place that was really full of locals. He was like the last person to get the last sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
You also had that squid thing that I had like a tiny nibble, but there's a few things that I missed out on just because I was just like, I cannot eat today. Like I'm just not well. So it's a bit of a shame that I was ill, especially because I was ill on Christmas Day, and I was ill last year on Christmas Day in Peru as well. So that's 2 years in a row I've been ill on Christmas Day. Tradition. So we're going to avoid that for next year, but that was Ho Chi Minh City / Saigon. And then we went to Can Tho, so we wanted to go somewhere a little bit different. And I think the great thing about Vietnam is you can be in an old town in Hoi An that looks like a film set. You can then be on a boat in beautiful blue water swimming to a beach. You can then be in Hoi An, which is a beautiful old place with like incredible old buildings and lanterns and all the rest of it. Saigon, like we said, was quite new and up and coming and busy. And then Can Tho was kind of chilled out, not many tourists, authentic. Or I don't like to say authentic or local because people get offended when you say that. They're like, everywhere's local. I get it. But like, it just felt more real. And again, people are going to say, everywhere's real. I get it's like hard to explain, but it just felt smaller and less touristy. Like I think in one day we saw like 4 white people and it was like, okay, this is cool because other places it's full of them. Full of us, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was it's a cool, different city. It's on the Mekong Delta.
Yeah.
So like the whole town was like surrounded by the river and canal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like a much smaller city. It's still a big city. It's like a few 100,000 people there, but much calmer. Nice to walk around again. Yeah, it was cool. I liked it there.
We stayed slightly out of town so that whenever we weren't disrupted by the noise or anything, and it was like a 10-minute walk into town.
Yeah.
Again, I'll leave the link in the description box to the place that we stayed. One of the things we did was a morning sunrise boat trip. That was really cool. Woke up at like 4 a.m. or 4:30 to meet the woman at 5 a.m. and we got on a boat all the way like in the dark, pitch black, with just the stars above us and a couple of lights on the river, but otherwise just us in this boat, like turtling, what's the word? Going down the river in a boat on our own with this man driving, obviously, and arrived at the market for sunrise, and people were starting to like set up the boats and things, and it's basically a floating market, and each boat sells 1 or 2 or 3 different things, and they have a big stick on the top of the boat. And at the top of the stick they kind of hang whatever they're selling. So you might see a pineapple hanging, and that boat is a pineapple boat, or like a watermelon or onions or whatever it is. So it's really cool driving around and seeing all the different, just a boat full of pineapple, like literally thousands of pineapples or watermelons or whatever it is. That was really cool. That was one of my highlights.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Very different.
The other thing, actually, another highlight, we were there for New Year's Eve and we were expecting big things. I was like, there's going to be fireworks, it's going to be so much fun. There wasn't, but actually there was a show on from 7 until 8:30. I think it was an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was actually really cool. There were singers and dancers, and they had a big screen in the background with like drone footage of Can Tho, but also other cities. They kept showing Ho Chi Minh, and there was that song like
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And then I kept hearing that song over and over in a couple of other places. So I actually really enjoyed that because it was like at the front was all the military people or something, right? Police or something like that. And then there was all just the regular people. And it was really fun because we were sat there, we're just only locals. And then people would walk past and be like, oh, okay. And like one girl even took our photo.
Yeah, it's just like...
She was like, can I take a photo? It was like, okay.
Oh, yeah, no, it's just pointing the fun.
Yeah, but okay, so that was 2. Have you got another highlight?
I always go back to the same thing, right?
Walking around.
No, but like walking in this... So like there is like the main town, and then you cross a bridge, and there is a small like island that's still attached by a couple of bridges to the mainland. And this part of the town was weird because it seems to be much more developed and ready for tourists in terms of what you could find there, like a nice resort and like a nice river walk, very well like
preserved
and stuff like that. There was a ghost town. No one was there.
It was like a mini beach that was like good vibes, party music, and
no one was there. Like the street was empty, like a 5-lane street with no car.
Which is weird for Asia.
Like massive sidewalks, like with no one. Those massive resorts with no people inside. Like very weird. Like we guessed that.
Well, the resort was busy. The restaurant was busy.
Yeah, this restaurant, yeah. But like, apart from that, it was so empty, and it was just very strange. Like to walk there in the middle of the city, like. And I don't know. I'm assuming that pre-COVID it must have been busy, and maybe like people didn't go back to this part of the town. I don't know. Very strange, but it looked really cool.
Yeah. They also had cafes around there with hammocks in. Remember that?
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else to say about Can Tho?
I liked it. Go there.
Yeah, I liked it. I think it was
different.
a little bit different. Like I said, Vietnam is just, there's so much to see. And I also want to say, so as we round this up, we spent a month there and we tried to do 5 days in each place. I think we stayed an extra day in Cat Ba Island because we enjoyed it there. We were like, we'll just stay an extra day. But otherwise it was 5 or 6 nights in each place. And we still missed out on places. Like we missed out on Hue, I think it's called, Hue, something like that, Hue, which apparently has... Is it between Hoi An and Hanoi?
Hanoi and Hoi An.
Yeah. So there's a different place there. Obviously there's still, because we kind of went along the coast, there's also everywhere inland as well that we didn't go to.
We haven't seen the north with the rice fields.
Sapa.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Ho Chi Minh Trail that goes more like inland. We haven't seen Dalat, I think, which is like in the mountains of flowers, cool stuff apparently. We didn't go to any beach town, anywhere.
Yeah, even Da Nang, because I think, so Hoi An is next to Da Nang, which is a beach town. We didn't even go there. So even though we spent a month in Vietnam, we saw 5 different places, it was not enough time at all. And I think, yes, we could have done, 2 nights, and done like a lot more places. But we're both working, obviously I'm doing YouTube, I'm also got another job, Jeremy's doing his things. So we're digital nomads who are travelling whilst working, which is very different to if you're backpacking at the age of 19 and you're just like, peace, let's just travel. Also we're 35, so it's a little bit harder because I get tired, you don't, you're fine. But yeah, there's so much to see in Vietnam. We were talking to a German friend here, and I was jealous that he was going to Vietnam because he's done either way, like Thailand, Cambodia, and then to Vietnam. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so jealous you're going there. I want to come with you. Like, I just loved it. And we were looking, and apparently you can get a 3-month visa.
Yeah, you can extend your 30 days visa to 90 days. Yeah,
so you never know what life's going to happen, but if we ever get the opportunity, I would for sure go back for 3 months. Like even so when we spent 6 nights in Cat Ba Island, I think we spent €140 for both of us for like food, accommodation, day trips, motorbike hire, access to things, whatever it was. It was less than €150 basically for 2 of us for almost a week. So I could definitely see myself staying there for a month and like, renting a bike for a month and just hanging out. I just loved it. And there's so much more to see. So honestly, if you're thinking about Vietnam, highly, highly, highly recommend it. One of my favourite places I've ever been. I felt super safe, which for me is important because as a woman, as someone who carries a lot of camera equipment, like I've got my iPhone, my camera and 3 lenses, laptop, things like that, I have a lot of valuable goods on me. There's some places where I feel a little bit like, oh my God, I need to hold on to my bag and like, oh, I don't feel safe and, have to be constantly holding your hand or like, I wouldn't go out on my own. Whereas in Vietnam, I would quite happily walk around on my own, like carry my shit with me all the time, and I'm not like scared that anyone's going to steal anything. I never felt threatened or like I was going to be attacked. Like it's complete opposite. Like everyone is so friendly, always smiling, always wanting to help, or like
people were laughing at us, but it's fine in a good way. Like
your red hair got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Jeremy got stared at more than me, which is not usual.
People like to say hello.
Yeah.
No, yeah, very safe. Never felt like a weird look on me.
Yeah, no, never.
Nice, like, oh, careful, those.
But oh, someone's following us
or whatever.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
And I think for me, like, the whole world is beautiful, right? You can see beauty in anything. I see beauty in dilapidated old buildings, as I do with palaces. Like, you can see beauty everywhere. So for me, safety is like really key. If I feel safe somewhere, I like love it 1,000 times more. Whereas when we're in Albania, for example, I did not feel safe pretty much the 3 weeks. We were there for 5 weeks. For 3 weeks, I didn't feel safe. I just felt like I was being watched and like I didn't, like, that was my experience. I'm sorry if you've been to Albania and loved it, but I just didn't love it. So being somewhere safe is really, really crucial. I actually think it would be fine for solo travellers, even female solo travellers. I think you'd be safe. I think you'd be fine. Battery's about to die, so we've got to wrap this up. But really loved it. Super safe, super affordable, absolutely stunning, amazing people. Would 100% recommend it. Yeah. I will leave any information that we've talked about in the description box down below. It's going to take me a while, but I will do it. And the last thing is,
if you wonder how much it cost us for a month, watch the next video.
Oh yeah, that as well. No, I was going to say, I'm going to leave the playlist link down below as well. So if you want to watch any of the vlogs, I've basically vlogged pretty much every single day. I think there's like 28 videos from Vietnam. Go ahead and watch them for any other information and to get a real look into our trip. Thank you so much for watching. We hope to see you soon and have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.